I was taking a look at my accounts earlier the other day, and I noticed that I actually ended up losing $27,363 in one of my accounts. And to be honest with you guys, it didn't really matter. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. And thank you for being with me for another one, and especially for my returning subscribers. Really love you guys a lot. So join me on this walk, guys, as I, number one, get some steps in. Again, my daily goal is to do about 10,000 steps a day. Not only do I want to do my 10,000 steps in a day, but also we can kill two birds with one stone. And that is, I can teach you guys some things while I'm also hitting my daily goals of 10,000 steps per day. I was taking a look at my accounts earlier the other day, and I noticed that I actually ended up losing $27,363 in one of my accounts. And to be honest with you guys, it didn't really matter. So why doesn't it matter? And one would think, if you're losing that much money, why don't you just pull out your money and stop the losses where they are? And this is something that I wanted to talk to you guys today about, and it's called realized and unrealized gains, because people don't know what these terms mean, and I figured it's a good opportunity to educate you guys. So real quick, guys, before we jump into what that actually means, go ahead and give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. And of course, if you get value from my videos, which hopefully you do, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever I upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, of course, share this with a family member or friend so that way they can learn a thing or two, and especially when it comes to realized and unrealized gains. Oh, and one last thing, of course, I'll put a link in the description for those who want to do some coaching calls. I still have spots available. I had a couple people actually reach out to me, and it was really cool to hear your stories, and also as well get a free coaching session. So if you're still interested in that, go ahead and click the link in the description below. And remember, if the link does not work, there will be other ones there where you can actually pay for a session. It's been very popular, so don't wait. As I showed you earlier, of course, I have an account, a little bit of money in there, of course, and the markets have not been doing well lately. I mean, geez, it almost seems like every morning that I wake up, I'm losing lots and lots of money. But for some reason, how can I still go to bed at night and still not lose any sleep? And that goes into the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is realized and unrealized gains. Now, one of the things that people fail to realize is when you have your money invested, it can go up, it can go down. And when it's doing these fluctuations and they're going up and down, if you're up, meaning you've made money, or if you're down, which you've lost money, which is where I'm at today, those are called realized and unrealized gains. Meaning, if it goes up in value and I haven't sold the asset or the security, then that is unrealized gains. I haven't realized them. Now, if they go down in value and I have not sold them yet, then of course the opposite, unrealized gains. And so the thing is when you have your money invested, it's almost like you're in a roller coaster. You go up, you go down, you never really get hurt per se until you go ahead and lock your losses. And so in my particular case, where I've lost all this money, I haven't actually lost it realistically because I haven't actually sold the securities. I still own them. And so over time, right, the market can recover and it can go ahead, bounce back, and I can make more money, of course. But based on my coaching and when I talk to people, everyone always gets scared and they always want to pull out their money, not really realizing that more time in the market is better than timing the market, meaning when to get in and when to get out. And by the way, guys, when it comes to realized and unrealized gains, there's so many ways that you can actually make money, or not even just make money, but you can leverage it in order to put you ahead, even if it's unrealized losses and you finally turn them into realized losses, meaning you actually sell the security and you actually experience losses. And we'll touch on that in a second. So let's talk a little bit about realized gains, right? Let's say you've made money, you decide to sell the asset, and you go ahead and say, hey, I want to go ahead and cash out. As you start understanding how money starts to work, you not only think about how to produce it, but you also think about how to keep it. And one of the things that I see people struggle with a lot is they don't understand taxes. and they don't bother to put any attention into that. And it's very, very important because taxes can either make you or break you. It really can. So on the screen here, I'll go ahead and put how much you can get taxed if you have earned income. That means I go to a job, I generate revenue, and I get paid at the end of the week, at the end of 2 weeks, monthly, whatever that looks like. And you can see here that based off of what is on the IRS, you can actually be taxed up to 37% on your money. And let me know in the comments, guys, if you want me to make a video of how taxes work, because unfortunately, people don't really realize how our taxes work in this country. And let's say you're looking at this table that I have here that shows you that if you make $609,000, let's just round up to 610. If you make $610,000 and up, you'll be taxed at 37%. Well, that's not necessarily entirely true. There are levels and there's step up taxes that you have to pay. You have to figure out what your effective tax rate is. But of course, if you guys are interested in learning what that looks like, go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below. So as you guys saw, if you make a lot of money in this country, yes, a certain portion of your income can be taxed at up to 37%. So it behooves you to understand how the tax system works, because you'll start to realize that as an individual starts moving away from earned income, meaning money that they go to work for, and they move over into income that's being produced by, let's say you have some investments such as the stock market. I'll give you another example. Let's say we have $1 million invested in the stock market. We get a 10% rate of return. That's $100,000 there. $100,000 from W-2 income, meaning that you went to work for it, that is taxed very differently than if you would have held money in the securities, let's say for example the stock market. If you would have held it in there for a year or longer, and we call that long-term capital gains. And the biggest thing to take away here is that the taxes are still much lower than earned income. My money is making me money, so I don't have to go to work for it, which is nice. And I'm taxed a lot less than somebody who has to go to work for their money. Isn't it interesting when you start to learn those things? So now to recap, how does that tie back to realized and unrealized gains? Well, if I put money in the stock market and I had it there for a year and it goes up in value and I want to go ahead and cash that out, I have realized my gains, right? I turned it in from unrealized gains to realized gains. And now that I have turned it into realized gains, you basically take a look at the table now, because you've held it a year or longer. That's called long-term capital gains now, because you have to pay taxes on the gains. And you realize that based on whether you're single or whether you are married, and of course, how much you gained in gains, you'll have to pay a certain amount of taxes. And by the way, those taxes are much less than somebody going to work and making that money as an earned income. It always behooves you to really understand, number one, how our tax system works. Number two, what are realized and unrealized gains, and of course losses, and how to start transitioning to make money in different ways, because not only do you make more money because you don't have to necessarily go to work for it, your money is doing the heavy lifting, but more importantly as well too, you get taxed a lot less. And people don't even realize that, because after a certain point, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And I will tell you guys right now, taxes are a very, very big portion of your life. And it really, really, really is important that you understand how that works. So not only did I tell you guys a little bit about how unrealized and realized gains work, let's talk a little bit about how unrealized and also as well realized losses work. And there's a lot to it, but we're only going to scratch the surface a little bit. So as an example, as you guys saw, one of my accounts, I lost almost $28,000 in it. I haven't locked in those losses, right? So it's not really real. It's sort of like on paper. And the thing is if you are, let's say for example, expecting to leverage that money, let's say you are in retirement, you're not working, and you don't have any other income, and you have to sell those securities in order to be able to live, well, that is a problem right there, because you're going to lock in your losses. But in my particular case, I'm fairly young. I still got many years left, and I don't expect to cash out on those particular securities. So meaning it is unrealized losses at the moment. Now, one can hold on to those securities and they can continue to go ahead and grow in the market. Now, if you ever looked at the history of a particular fund, you can see that over time it goes up and down, but generally you do make money on your fund. Generally, not always true. But in my particular case, the fund that I'm invested in, it has averaged about 10 to 15% rate of return. So that is an example of your money continuing to still work and do its thing in the market, and you haven't realized the losses. Now, one would say, well, why would I ever want to sell my securities if I'm losing money? Why would I do such a thing? And at some point, you start to realize there's other strategies that you can implement in order to sell at a loss in order to reap some of the benefits. I'll give you an example. One quick little example of how people can leverage their losses is they can sell their securities at a loss. They can go ahead and use those losses to offset their taxes. Now, something to keep in mind, you can only do up to $3,000 if memory serves me correctly. So it's not like you can go ahead and write off unlimited amounts of losses. It just doesn't work that way. But you do have $3,000 for the calendar year that you can offset your taxes on, and you can leverage that in order to lower how much you're paying in taxes. Now, again, I'm not a tax strategist. I'm not an expert at it, but I do have some experience in it, and double check everything that I say, of course. But that is an example of how people can leverage realized losses in order to benefit them. As an example, lower their taxable income. Now let's take a look at another example of why you would want to lock in some losses or have realized losses. So let's say you have an investment and that investment has a $1,000 gain. And for simplicity's sake, if we looked at the capital gains taxes that we had before, let's say you fall in under that 20% bracket there. So keep in mind, that is a $200 tax bill that you have now. Now let's say you have another investment and the investment has $1,000 in losses. Now, because you have $1,000 in losses, essentially your net gain, right, after your losses and after your gains, your net gain is technically zero at that point. So because you have no net gains, you technically have no taxes at that point. So what does that equate to? Well, that means you essentially get to keep the $200. Now, if you take the $200 and you reinvest it and you let it grow over time for the next 10, 20, 30 years, you actually start to have a very big snowball that starts to compound on itself, and you start to make some more money on the back end that way. And the key thing to understand is what is realized and what is unrealized gains and losses, and how you can apply each of them in order to get ahead financially. So that was a lot to take in, I know, and especially if you haven't heard of these terms before. And a lot of the times people don't even know what they mean. Sometimes they'll say these fancy things and don't even know exactly what it means. But hopefully you guys get it, and hopefully you guys can apply it to your lives. But more importantly, guys, I'm gonna head back. I'm almost done here walking my steps. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Sound off in the comments below. Let me know how you guys utilize unrealized or realized gains and losses. I'm kind of curious from your perspective. Also as well too, guys, again, if you want to help the channel grow, make sure you give me a like for the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications, and share this with a family member or a friend. And don't forget, guys, if you want to go ahead and speak with me, links will be in the description below. All right, guys, love you a lot, appreciate you, and I will see everybody in the next one.